Hello cadets. Now in today's video we are going to learn about pressure, the concept of pressure, the formula of pressure and different examples and applications involving pressure. So first let's start by considering what is pressure and how it is calculated. Suppose there is a force applied on a particular area, on a particular surface. Now, for the sake of clarity or simplification, we assume that the force is applied on a smaller portion of that surface. Then the pressure produced over this area is defined as a force upon area. But what you must understand is this force should be the normal force acting on the given area. That is, in this equation, we have to substitute the magnitude of that force which is perpendicular to the given area. So, what if it is not perpendicular? Like for example, suppose there is another area given where the force is inclined, say at this angle theta with the vertical. Now, for such type of force, the first thing you have to do is you have to resolve the force into two components, just like you resolve any other vector. And for that matter, you have to find one component of this force which is perpendicular to the surface itself. So this component here is the normal component, whereas this component is called the tangential component. And so in this case, the formula for pressure will be normal force upon area. Now, the magnitude of this normal force here in this diagram will be F cos theta divided by area A. So always remember, whenever you have to calculate or you have to find a pressure exerted due to a force on a particular area, you always have to consider that force which is normal, that is perpendicular to that area, so that if it is inclined at some angle, you will have to resolve it by the vector resolution method and take the component of that force which is perpendicular to that area. In this case, you have to ignore the tangential component, so that if at all there is a force given to you which is tangential to the surface, all of this force, the whole force is tangential to the surface, then the pressure produced by this force will be equal to 0. Okay? Pressure here is given by normal force upon area. This normal force sometimes is also called as the thrust. It is also called as the thrust. So a force which is normal, perpendicular to the surface. Now, next important aspect, let us see an example of pressure where we can relate this force and area and we can understand the role of force as well as area, especially area. It is very obvious, as you can see from the equation, that a large force is applied, then it produces a larger amount of pressure. But the role of area is also equally important. Let's consider an example for that. Suppose I have a rectangular brick or a block here, a block which is having a rectangular cross section, and suppose its dimensions are 20 centimeter by 10 centimeter, and suppose the height is 50 centimeter. So if I place this block just like it is, just like this, on a surface, so what will happen is, when I calculate or I want to calculate the pressure exerted by this block on this surface, I will have to take the area as this area which is in directly contact with the surface, that is 200 centimeter square. And the force acting on this surface will be the weight of the block. So for this case, the pressure will be weight upon area. let us designate this area as A1. Now, suppose the block is flipped. Now the block is placed like this on this area, the same area or the same surface, but now we have changed the position in which the block is kept. So now the area of the block is 50 multiplied by 20. In this case, that would be 1000 centimeter square. It will be equal to 1000 centimeter square. So now the pressure given by the same formula, weight upon area, because now, even now, on the surface, only the weight of the block is acting. So as we have used the same block in both the cases, the weight or the normal force will be equal. So we have used the same notation here. But wherever area is smaller, the pressure will be larger, and wherever the area is larger, the pressure will be smaller. That is why we can now write it mathematically that as A1 is less than A2, this implies P1 is greater than P2. Now, this we can state in the form of an important concept or an important application from the practical life point of view also, that wherever you want to increase the pressure but you cannot increase force. So there is a restriction. You want to increase pressure but you cannot increase the force. Then it's still you can increase the pressure by decreasing the area. That is why if you cut any object with a sharp knife, it is easy to cut because a sharper knife has got smaller area. So for the same force, it will produce larger pressure. If the knife is blunt, it has got more area, and for the same force, because area is larger, the pressure will be smaller. Next type of pressure, or the next situation of pressure, is described as the hydrostatic pressure. This is basically pressure produced or exerted by a liquid which is at rest, which is not moving at all. So first we will see how exactly that pressure acts and how to calculate it, what would be its formula. So let us suppose that there is a cylindrical vessel, and in this cylindrical vessel a liquid has been filled up to a height h. Suppose the density of this liquid is a rho, and the diameter or the inner radius of this vessel is, say, r. First important thing, let's focus on this bottom portion of this vessel. So we know that the pressure on any area is given by force, that is normal force divided by area, or normal force per unit area. So here the normal force acting on this area is nothing but the weight of the liquid itself. Let's for a while ignore the complete weight of the vessel only. So let's assume that compared to the weight of the liquid, the weight of the vessel is negligibly small. So the only force acting on this area, the only normal force acting on the area would be the weight of the liquid. Now, we know that weight is given by m into g, mass multiplied by acceleration due to gravity. Also, I can further write it as v into rho into g. Now for that, remember, density is mass upon volume. This implies mass is equal to density multiplied by volume. So this formula we have used here for mass. Next, as this is a cylindrical vessel, I can write here that volume is equal to area of cross section multiplied by height. Okay. So because it has got a uniform cross section throughout the height, Only because of that, I can use this formula for volume, area of cross section multiplied by height. So, further, finally I get the normal force as, see, in place of V, I will write A into H. The remaining terms will remain as they are. Now, finally, the formula for pressure. So, we know it is normal force upon area. Normal force, we just got this formula divided by area. So, area will get cancelled. We get P is equal to H into rho into G. So, H is the height of the liquid column, height of the liquid inside the vessel. Rho is the density of the liquid, and G is acceleration due to gravity. That term came from here. As you can clearly see that there is no other term like area of cross section of the vessel, radius of the vessel or diameter of the vessel. There is no such term. So, for the sake of simplicity, we can say as long as we are considering the same liquid and it is at rest, okay, under these two conditions, same liquid not moving at rest, under these conditions, the pressure exerted by that liquid called as hydrostatic pressure depends only on the height of the liquid column. It depends only on height of the liquid column. If you are considering the same liquid and it is at rest, it is not moving at all in any way, in any direction. Which also means it can further be explained like this. Suppose you have taken another cylindrical vessel which is having a larger radius like this. What you have done is you have filled the liquid up to the same level even in this vessel also. Then the pressure at this area and the pressure at this area both will be equal. Why? Because it's the same liquid having the same density. Both are at rest, and more important than that, the height of liquid in both the vessels is equal. That is why, irrespective of what mass of liquid is in there, what is the radius of the vessel, what is the area or diameter of the vessel, this is immaterial. The pressure depends only on height h in this case. Okay, that is another reason. So you can say that as you go deeper and deeper, the pressure goes on increasing, and that's one of the main reasons why when you construct a dam, the wall of the dam, it has to go on becoming thicker and thicker as you go to a greater depth. So typically the wall of a dam will look somewhat like this. If you consider it, if you build it. So with depth, the pressure is going to increase. The wall of the dam, therefore, is built like this. So this is, you have stored water here. This is the reservoir of the dam. So because as you go deeper and deeper, the pressure goes on increasing, and therefore to sustain that increased pressure, you need to have a dam wall whose thickness goes on increasing with increase in depth. This is how the dam wall is constructed. What thickness should be there at what depth? It depends primarily on the value of depth.